Hello and welcome into another video, and today's video is why I gave up on physical. Now, obviously I do own some games physical. I've actually got some games that I literally can't play. I've got the physical copy of American McGee's Alice on the PC, and there's no way for me to use it because whose PC has a disk drive anymore? Like, it's something that you tend to have to buy as an actual optional extra. And this is a video that's probably going to really piss some people off because I know there are a lot of very excitable people, very hot-headed people who have a very strong opinion on physical and how digital is evil and one of the worst things. I completely gave up on physical, despite owning some physical games, despite getting a 3DS at this moment in time and going through a bunch of 3DS games and buying up a load of carts because I wanted the tactileness of it. But it's kind of proven to me as well that I truly am kind of done with their modern day physical because there's just no point to it. And when you go back to olden day physical as well, I also feel there's not really any fucking point. And yeah, again, there's going to be a lot of people just like, but digital's a license. Yes, digital these days sadly is a license because everything is like shitty and a license and a renting and a service or anything. But the one thing with physical that people like to ignore, people love to say you will always own that game if you own it physically. Okay, do you live in a hermetically sealed lab? Do you live in a place that has absolutely no humidity problems, no moisture problems, no dust problems? Do you have access to batteries that will never fail? Do you, at this moment in time, and if you are a deep physical collector of, like, NES, then you will probably know this. It's the type of thing that you will know. But if you're just a general newish to games or contemplating getting back into physical because of all of these issues and that, do you know what screwdriver you need to be able to remove the screws from a Nintendo cartridge? Any model, NES, SNES, N64, GBA, do you know what kind of battery fits into those? Do you know if you have to unplug the battery and plug a new battery in? Or do you have to get a soldering kit out and melt part of the battery? And melt, like, well, not the battery itself, because obviously that would be severely dangerous, but, like, melt the housing of the battery to be able to flip it out and flip a new one in? Do you know how to repair pins on cartridges? Do you know how to do any of this shit? Because if the answer's no to even one of those, then chances are just because you own a cartridge that's 40 years old, 30 years old, 20 years old, chances are you don't have access to that game. Like, the battery most likely will have failed, the pins might have corroded. There's so many issues with physical games that if you don't know how to repair them, then you're just fucked. And not everyone has the dexterity, has the eyesight, has the physical ability to be able to do this. There are going to be some collectors out there. I'm one of them, with different things. I am disabled. I do certain things that I literally can't do. Like, I had to buy a modded 3DS and a modded Vita because I didn't think I had the ability to actually mod them. I can do certain things with, like, the emulator devices that came out, the mini Nintendo Entertainment System, the mini SNES, the mini Mega Drive, like, all of those tend to be easy enough. I didn't know if I'd be able to do it with a handheld. Add in any time where you actually need to modify something with a soldering iron or anything like that, where you actually need to insert capture cards in and things, like, I don't have the physical ability to do that because my eyesight, my arthritis in my hands, like, there's so many things that I have access to that I wouldn't be able to ever replicate. But from a digital side of things, yes, these are licenses. Yes, there may come a time that my Nintendo Switch, which is also a physical product, by the way, at the moment in time it's a Switch 2, obviously, will stop working and become outdated, and they'll shut down the eShop, and you'll not be able to get the updates for things, like I'm discovering with my 3DS. At the moment, I can still get updates, but Fantasy Life, one of the best 3DS games, I never got to play Fantasy Life. I really wanted to play it. There's a DLC on Fantasy Life. A full prologue campaign expansion type thing that they did. It adds hundreds of hours of content to the game. It's by many seen as the only true way to actually play the game. It's so in-depth. It's not just a tiny little DLC add-on type thing that adds no content. Other than the fact that it is a tiny little add-on, it's a 100 kilobyte unlock code. Or it might be smaller than that. It's basically your standard kilobyte unlock code. Because all that content's on the cartridge. You can't play it. Not if you buy the game now. If you buy a physical copy of that game and put it into your regular physical 3DS, You cannot get that content. It was free. It was a free download to everyone. The developer put the content on the cartridge and then locked it behind an online check that you now literally cannot do. Physical cartridge. My modded 3DS has that unlock. I have the physical cartridge, by the way. I did actually want to buy it because I wanted to see if I could do the unlock on the cartridge and then use it on my unmodified 3DS. There might be a way to do that. I haven't figured it out yet. But it was a free download. Just permanently free. The only reason I don't have it is I never bought the game on the day. Like, because I was kind of done with the 3DS when it came out. I didn't know if it was my kind of thing. I've played the sequel now. I really wanted to play the original. And I'm like, I'm locked out of this. Just because a developer decided to lock it on the cart. And again, this is all part of the things are getting worse. And digital licenses are now worthless. Like, as in worth less than they were. Not worthless as in they're worth nothing. They are genuinely worth less than they were. Because before, digital used to be something that was, you could carry it over multiple systems. Like the PS3 used to let you game share with 5 systems, and now we're at a point where game sharing tends to be locked. I think the PlayStation still lets you do it. To be fair, I know the PlayStation lets you do it, but game sharing is fast becoming a case of, no, we're going to make it so that you can only buy one digital copy and you all have to buy it type thing. All of this is getting worse, but then there's the darker side of things. I own Super Mario Brothers. How many times? I'm not going to go for how many times I've bought it, just how many times I currently legally own it, because I have got rid of like GBA cartridges and stuff like that. 4? I want to say 4 times I own it legally. I have access to it on 7 of my devices. Now I'm allowed to, because obviously I do own it legally. But I do have it as accessible on like the mini Nintendo Entertainment System, stuff like that. I have the original Super Mario Brothers on a few other devices. If, when my PC ever gets to a point where I need to upgrade or anything, all of the digital games I have installed on Steam, all of anything that I have, like, I played through the first 2 Pikmin games on Dolphin just before they announced the ports of them for the Switch, and despite rolling credits on both of them, and I've still never actually installed them on my Switch, I immediately went and bought them, because these are 2 very great, like, very important games. I mean, granted, I don't actually like the second one as much. I have reasons for why I don't like the second and the fourth one. Mainly the fourth one is because it ports a lot of the content from the second one. Like, seriously, I don't understand why it gets a pass on that. Like, there's so many repeated caves in that fucking game. But anyway, I do love Pikmin. I wanted to have access to all of them, so I went out and bought them, even though I just rolled credits on Dolphin. When I get my new PC, I just transfer my hard drive from one PC to the other. My Dolphin files will be there. If those files ever corrupt, I'll have backups of them. As much as people love to see it, digital's the thing you need to be afraid of. Digital's the thing you will truly lose access to. No, it isn't. Not unless the master files, like, not unless no one ever has an actual backup. There's a reason that game historians are trying to say, hey, maybe we should actually, get full digital rips of these games so that we can preserve them. Eventually, they will do a port of that Fantasy Life game, and that DLC will most likely be just, like, there. It won't require an internet connection or anything. They might do a Switch port, they might eventually make it, and I will buy it on the Switch, because firstly, I'll want the extra graphics, and secondly, I'll want the bigger screen size. As much as I'm able to play my 3DS at this moment in time, my vision is still bad, and eventually I'll lose access to that as well. Another thing with physical, by the way, like, digital, the fact that I can play GBA games, instead of on a 2-inch unbacklit screen, I can play them on my Switch, legally, as part of the NSO thing. Digital's always going to be the better medium. It just is, and I'm sorry, like, whether you like to admit it or not, digital is also better on the environment. And no dev actually gives a fuck about this. GTA isn't currently going, you know what, we're not doing a disc version with GTA 6 because we care about the environment. Fuck no, that isn't what Rockstar and Take-Two are doing. They're doing it out of greedy monetary things, and they're still releasing a physical product, the worst part of it, the plastic case. Like, but digital, none of that shit. You don't need it. It's just, you get the game, you play the game, you can take the game with you. Digital has so many different advantages to it, it's unfucking believable. Digital is genuinely the only way that you will always have access. Now, you may not always have access on that console, but if you're tech savvy, and even if you're not tech savvy, because there's a lot of things that, let's be real, are, again, you can buy a modified 3DS, you can buy a modified Vita like I have, you can buy these things to be able to get access to things that you couldn't normally access. Like, there's always going to be a way to access those digital files, I feel. Because they're already out there now. They, like, no matter how many times people try to stop them, and a lot of times these corporations think that it is scummy. It's like, oh, well, people are just trying to be thieves. Again, I legally own Super Mario Brothers so many fucking times, it's unbelievable. But the ways I legally own them may not be the way that I want to play them. I own the original Mario Brothers on my 3DS. I'm not going to sit there and go, you know what, this is the version of the game I want to play. I'm going to play it on my NSO subscription. Eventually, I'll lose the NSO subscription, not because I'll unsubscribe. I think I'm kind of a dear oneer. Mainly because this is part of the reason why I got my Switch 2 without having to worry, and I'm hoping to do the same again when this Ocarina one comes out, if it gets confirmed, because they were like, yep, you have been subscribed since day one, you have played this many hours on your Switch, we are giving you priority access because we know that you're not a scummy scalper who's going to get the system and sell it on. And yeah, I don't even know what I'm going to do with my old Switch 2 if this new one comes out and I manage to get access to it. I'm definitely not fucking selling it for a profit or anything. I also don't have anyone to give it to. I gave my last OLED Switch away because I don't like being the scummy person. I'll sell tech if I have to. Like, I'll sell old tech all the time, but if it's something that actually has a scalping issue around it, which the Switch 2, my Switch 2 might actually go up in value by the time I get around to selling this version. Like, if I sell it, if I can't find anyone to give it to. And no, by the way, like, if you are watching this, firstly, I don't read comments, and secondly, I'm never going to be the person who just randomly turns around and gives it to someone random who asks apologies. I tried to actually... The last person with the Switch OLED was actually, and I'm being genuine with this, like... If you know my videos, you know that I've grew up in kind of a hellish environment. I gave it to a child who was in a hellish environment. They were 17 at the time. I think they're 18 now, to be fair. But chronically ill, disabled, grew up with a lot of trauma, awful family type thing. I gave my Switch to them because I'm like, you are the kind of person who needs it. Because I at least had games as an escape. You don't. So I give them my old Switch. That's the kind of person I will give the Switch to if I can actually find someone, because I also don't just give it to random strangers, and this is someone I knew. So yeah, all of that is here. All of that, like, waffling aside, to get back to the actual topic, I'm always going to be able to play, worst case scenario, say my Switch 2 craps out, say the NSO craps out, say whatever happens, 50 years time from now, if somehow I'm still alive but Nintendo isn't, I'll be able to use Dolphin on a PC, I reckon. Because I don't think stuff like that's going to go away. Now, granted, will I still want to be playing GameCube games in 50 years' time? Honestly, probably. Because, like, great games are great games. Yeah, the tech changes and a lot of accessibility changes and that, but the original Pikmin is still my favourite of the entire franchise, followed by Pikmin 3. I adore the original Pikmin, even though it is janky as fuck. Because, yeah, it's janky as fuck. It still is, in my opinion, the best of the fucking franchise. I love everything about it. So I'm probably still going to want to play that in 50 years' time. I'll be able to do it on Dolphin. I may not be able to do it with any of the legal copies that I own, but at least owning them is probably still wise, because that is the way I tend to go with my... Like, I literally bought some of the rarest, most expensive 3DS carts because I would rather own those legitimately than play the illegitimate version if I don't have access to them. Like, I'm not going to say I've never played a game that I don't own. Of course I have, like a lot of people have. But that's true of any medium. How many people used to lend cartridges as kids? There's games that I beat on my Super Nintendo that I loved that I've probably never bought because I just borrowed it off some kid and got to play it that way. I definitely own Resident Evil 1 so many times. I'm trying to think. There's got to be one example of a game that I know fine well I lent off someone. At a time, it was Resident Evil 1. Like, genuinely, like, it eventually got corrected, but I never owned the original Resident Evil 1. I rented it, well, I lent it off a friend, beat it. Then, when I did finally get a PS1 copy, I actually got the director's cut and didn't like it. So, the original Resident Evil 1 might still be it, you know? Because after the director's cut, I never... Unless I bought it on the PSN. I might have bought it on the PSN for when I was playing on the Vita, playing PS1 games on the Vita. I think that might have been it. And even then, if that's the director's cut, if that's also the director's cut, then yeah. because I bought the HD remaster and everything, I bought the GameCube remaster, all of these things are not the actual original. It might be Resident Evil 1 on a very technicality is a game that I have beaten dozens of times, but I've only ever owned ports or remakes. I've never owned the original. And I didn't steal the original. I just borrowed the disc off someone. You know? Like, it's not just stealing, is what I'm trying to say. There are ways of playing games without fucking legally owning them, simply by borrowing them. And this is the thing that all of these devs don't understand. There's a lot of people out there who do outright steal these things, who do have no interest in ever paying money. But there's a lot of people like me out there who owned Pikmin. I owned it on the Wii and the GameCube, but I couldn't play them anymore. Like, those systems are in fucking storage. I literally don't have room for them in my life. So I'd play them on Dolphin. And then the absolute day that they came out on the Switch, even though I had that week just rolled credits, because obviously it was a surprise reveal, if you remember. It was a, hey, they're here and they're out now. I couldn't have timed it on a technicality worse. I'd just rolled credits on the second game, and I'm like, I don't care that I've just rolled credits here. I'm buying these right the fuck now, because I want access to them on my Switch, and eventually one day I'm going to replay them, and it's going to be so great that I don't need to go through the steps of making sure that Dolphin's updated, I'm just going to be able to boot my Switch up, boot the game up, and play through them. That's the thing that all of these companies don't understand with why digital's better. They're so terrified of it. And there's all these anti-digital sentiments from people going, you need physical, you need physical. Digital's always going to be the way forward. It just is. There's so many more advantages. And eventually, once they realise that, I actually think the NSO is kind of the perfect thing. Granted, it would be nice if I could just own these games, but we're in a capitalistic system. I think this is the fairest compromise we're going to get in a capitalistic system. They're never going to let us just buy one license of this game and play it for infinity. But at least if we've still got access to them, at least if Nintendo are like, hey, we promise you, the NSO will always be on our systems. You will always be able to play these games. We'll never take them away from you. We'll just give you access and we'll give you more. I think it's at least a fair compromise. Again, it's not the best for the consumer. Ideally, it would be great if Nintendo would go, you know what? You've bought Super Mario Bros. 5 times legally already, or 4 times, or whatever. We know you've got a digital license on the Wii. We know you've got a digital license on the 3DS. We know you've got a digital license on the Wii U. Yes, I even bought the Wii U upgrade. We'll just give you them, you know? They're never going to do that. It would be amazing if they did. But the fact that I can still play the original Super Mario Bros. Sorry, I have something stuck in my mouth out of nowhere. The fact that I can still play that on the Switch and the Switch 2 and whatever they do next, I don't think it'll be a Switch 3. Like that, this is a different video for a different thing. I think we've had the safe console, which is weird for Nintendo. The next one might be the weird one, even if it's just like the Switch 3D. Even if they just go, oh yeah, we're going all the way back to the 3DS. It's a Switch, but it's got a 3D slider. I don't think it'll just be a Switch, because obviously you won't be able to use the 3D function on the console thing. It won't just be something safe. I really don't think it'll be like that. But as long as I can still play the original Super Mario Bros. When I need to, like, I'm going to be fine with that. This is the thing. My physical games, I need to keep the hardware. I need to keep them all in pristine condition. I need to do repairs on them eventually. But my digital files, as long as my fucking system works, then my digital files will still work. Like, I understand there's a lot of people who get pissed off about it and the ownership, and I'm not ever going to discredit that, because again, I am as anti-capitalist as you can fucking get, quite frankly. I hate this system. But at the same time, this is the system that unfortunately we're dealing with, and I don't understand how you can genuinely say that physical is better when there's so many issues with physical that digital can get around. You just can't get around them legitimately. And ideally, I'm being genuine. Like, this happened with music services. The reason everyone stopped pirating music is because you made a legal digital version that was actually better than piracy. You can do that with video games. You know fine well they can, and they may not want to do it, but it may eventually get to the point where they go, you know what, we're just going to let people do all this. We'll just charge them a fee to fucking do it. People will pay it. A lot of people will pay it, because I'm telling you now, when it comes to the CD side of digital, again, yes, there will always be people. Hell, there might be people out there who literally just can't afford to. It might be a case of it's not that they want to steal, it's that they literally can't afford to. And games, this sort of medium, should be accessible to people who can't afford it. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. But people like me who can afford these things, who keep begging and saying, can you just give me some way to legitimately fucking play this game? We keep begging for these ports. We keep begging for modern day licenses that carry forward with us. Things like Pocky and Rocky 2. We've had Pocky and Rocky Reshrined, I think it was called, where they did a remake kind of the first one, but there's so many old games where the licenses are just out there, and let us get them. Maybe one day they'll eventually realise, you know what, we'll just actually sell you a fucking emulator that lets you play all of this shit. It probably will never happen, unless someone buys all of the rights, and we have that sort of monopoly, and then that'll be a hellscape of its own thing, because that is why, obviously, they can't do it at the moment, because they can't give you legal access to an emulator and say, hey, now only emulate our games. Like, you know, but if you find a way to sell us that stuff, people will actually buy it. And I never have to worry about my digital files. Because again, if a hard drive corrupts, if that file corrupts or something, I just get another file. Instantly, via the internet. I don't need to go, oh no, my cartridge is broken. I have bought 3 physical copies of Mario Kart 7 this past month. Mario Kart 7 is one of the most popular 3DS games. It was bought and beloved and played by millions. I must have bought 2 that were owned by children. The first one I bought went missing in the post. Completely disappeared. Never saw it again. Except, I'll get to that. So the first one disappeared. I had to buy a second one. Second one arrived. It works sometimes. If I put the console into sleep, if I'm in the middle of a race, it'll sometimes say, yep, the cartridge has been removed, returning to the home system. Even when the cartridge hasn't been removed. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? It works, but doesn't. So that was the second copy. Bought a third copy. Looked okay online. Arrived. The pins were absolutely filthy. Even after I cleaned the pins with isopropyl, still doesn't even register in the cart slot, which, Puzzles and Dragons Mario Bros. Edition, also had to buy that multiple times, because just, couldn't get one that worked. I was so pissed off, until finally the first one that I'd ordered over a month ago, that I'd already been refunded on, because it had gone completely lost, suddenly arrived, out of nowhere. And that one, thankfully, works. So the first copy that I actually bought, that had went missing for over a month, that I'd been refunded on, that the Royal Mail and everything had actually reported fully as missing and said, yep, you will never, ever get this. The seller I bought it from said, yep, you'll never get it. I'll just have to refund you. I've been refunded. All's fine. I haven't lost any money. You haven't lost any money. And actually, yeah, I've then ended up getting the cart. And maybe this is Karma's way of going, well, actually, because you've now paid for a version that you literally, 2 versions that you literally can't buy, can't play for, can't use. I've got 3 physical copies of Mario Kart sitting next to me at this moment in time. 7. Only one of them works. If I'd set up an emulator, guarantee the digital file would work first time. Guarantee it. I don't understand why people are so adamant that physical is so much better when it's just not. In an ideal world, it could be. In an ideal world, you could make carts that last longer. You could make carts that have all of these fucking DLC codes into them. You could do all of this. But even then, even the most robust designed thing, like original Game Boys, which are known to survive some truly horrendous conditions, even original Game Boys eventually fail. And I don't say this like the whole Boogeyman thing and the Tooth Fairy and all that. I'm sorry to tell you this. Santa Claus, the whole thing, original Game Boys, they do eventually break. Original Nokia phones, they do eventually break. Your digital stuff doesn't. Even if the file corrupts, unless it's the only file in the history of anything, if it's a game that you yourself made and you have the only copy, then yeah, if the digital version goes, you're completely fucked. But games like Pikmin, games like Mario, they're always going to be accessible, whether Nintendo wants them to be or not. And thankfully, Nintendo wants them to be. And thankfully, Nintendo gives us a way to legally play these things. And again, despite rolling credits, and again, despite owning it already physically, multiple times legally, the moment I had an option to finally get these two games digitally on my Switch, I fucking bounced. I immediately fucking bought them. I couldn't even really afford to do it that week, and I still did it sillily and then realised, oh, I probably should have waited at least a week to buy them. Give us an avenue to play these things digitally forever, and people will pay money. And yeah, with that long-winded rant and waffle and everything over, these are just all the reasons I gave up with physical, and even having a nostalgia period like I'm having with my 3DS at the moment, that happened with Mario Kart 7. I'm just, like, not getting physical carts for the Vita. I will use any of the digital stuff that I owned legally. I used to have a huge library on my original Vita digitally. I only ever actually had about 5 cartridges because for whatever reason it was, even back then I didn't like Vita cartridges. Just, there was something about them that were odd. But I actually kind of still like 3DS cartridges, and it's why I've had these nostalgia moments. It's like, you know what, I actually really like the design. I like the physical click that when you put it in. I want to own some cartridges. But if that story that I've just told you with Mario Kart 7, something that was very popular, something that was very beloved, something where there are so many fucking copies of this game available, if that had happened with Rhythm Paradise Megamix, the game that I spent £90 on, like, how many copies of that might I have had to go through before I finally got one that worked? Now, thankfully, the one that I bought worked. But I imagine there's someone out there who's bought a copy of that game before and it simply is corroded to fuck and doesn't work. And maybe they spent a lot of money on it. Hell, maybe you had the issue I had. Now, yes, Mario Kart 7 did eventually turn up. 3 other things went missing. Never turned up. Never getting them. What if that had happened with the rare fucking physical thing? I'd have got my refund. I'd have got the £90 I spent. But I'd still be without the game. And then, after I'd bought it, and let's say in an alternate universe, this had happened with that. There's only actually, I think, 10 copies at this moment in time up on eBay UK. And some of them are reasonably priced. I say reasonably as if £90 reasonable, but some people are just like, oh yeah, my copy's worth 200 quid. And it's like, really? Because why? Let's say I'd gone through all 3 of the £90 to £100 range copies that were available. First one went missing in the mail. Second one arrived, didn't work. Well, worked sometimes. Third one arrived, didn't work at all. They're the only 3 copies in my price range that I could afford. No one's getting any money outside of the seller who owned it. Like, Nintendo's not getting any money. Would it have been wrong for me to then go immediately get a download on the modded 3DS? On a technicality, yes. But what other option would I have had? Like, I got lucky that my copy worked. There's people out there, as I say, who will have got unlucky. There are people out there who will have bought that game from a secondhand store or something, and it be completely fried. Like, but the digital license, get that easily enough on a modded 3DS. So, just give us a way to play these things legally, digitally. Figure out who needs the money at the end of the day. Someone has to own this fucking shit. Like, be a service. Provide the service for other people. Go, you know what? You're a developer. You have access to all of these licenses that you just do not fucking use. Let us be the middle person. Let us put your game on our service. We'll do all of the hard work. We'll get it running. We'll make sure that it works and functions flawlessly, that people can play it. We'll make sure that it is preserved. And because we're doing most of the work, we'll take most of the profit. So you'll get, like, we'll sell it for $10. We'll take $7 of it. You'll get $1.50. Yeah, that's a shit deal for these devs. But the devs I'm kind of talking about tend to be the likes of EA, who have all of these licenses and just don't do anything with it. And if you turn around to EA and say you're giving them $1.50 for something that they don't have to do any work on, and it's every copy sold, and if it sells 100,000 copies, they're just getting free money for doing nothing for their licenses, just sitting there. Nintendo would just be getting money for doing all of the work. Like, give us access to these fucking things. Let us pay for them, and people will do it. That's the downside to digital. The accessibility of it. Legality accessibility of it. That's the real downside to digital. I can't honestly think of an actual downside outside of that. Physical, I can think of fucking tons of them, and I'll give you examples. Digital will always be better. Alright, until next time, I've been Sky Fellowship. I truly do have a great rest of your day. I understand you may not agree with my opinion. Hopefully you can at least see my side, that in an ideal world, presented all things equal in a vacuum, my digital file I will never have to worry about. My physical, I will always have to worry about. Have I left it lying in the sun? Has it been in my pocket and I've got lint on it and it's ruined a contact or something? Has something spilled on it? You know? Until next time, bye.